Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the I Am Transformed show where I interview real people with real life and powerful transformations. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you to make unapologetic life transformations. I simply want to help you discover the power of your choice and voice, develop positive mindset, and remove those shackles that keep you in bondage so that you can transform your life. If you have excuses that are prohibiting you from pursuing your dreams, guess what? The wait is over. When you can change your mindset, you can change your life. So let's go after that life that you desire and deserve. I am your host, Dr. Veronica Outlaw, and I am here to help you declare and decree I am transformed. Today, we have an exciting episode that's going to be titled No Mountain Can Stop Me, a faith transformation by Alyson Calloway. Now, Alyson is a two-time graduate of Florida A&M University. She's a certified professional life coach, an author, a member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She's also a graduate of Cornell University's Women in Entrepreneurship program and the founder of Mama's Movement LLC. And I'm so excited that she's going to talk about that today. It's basically an organization dedicated to creating a strong platform for moms where they can challenge and sharpen each other. Alyson has overcome obstacles that she's going to talk about today. And with faith, she found her purpose in life. So aside from her many accolades, at the core, Alyson is grounded in faith and she's a loving mother. She motivates mothers to chase their dreams post-children, and there is life aside from motherhood. Alyson is going to discuss her journey and encourage you and inspire you to live the life of your dreams. Through God and faith, no mountain can stop her. Alyson, my dear, do I have you with me?
I am here. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. Where's my little friend?
He is actually with his father, so
Okay.
we probably won't have any interruptions tonight.
Okay, I had fun with my little buddy on the pre-call.
Yes.
So I'm excited to have you with me today. The title of your episode, No Mountain Can Move Me, really intrigued me. So let's chop it up. Let's talk about the obstacles that you've had to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be able to share in this space with you today. When I look back over the totality of my life, for one, everything that I journey through, I can say nothing but thank you, God, for literally just carrying me through every single season in my life. But one of the hardest seasons that I can say to date I've dealt with was shortly after the birth of my son that you had the opportunity to meet a few days ago. And so he's almost 3 years old and I can't believe it. But although he is my life's biggest blessing, he was really brought into my life at not such an easy time for me. There was a lot of turmoil, there was a lot of stress, and shortly after he was birthed, I became a single mom. And so just learning to now navigate with a child in a new environment and just having to adjust and still show up for my son, my family, my career, my purpose. It wasn't always easy. There were times where I literally just wanted to throw in the towel. And if I'm being honest, there were times where I literally asked God, why would you call me to this battle? Like, of all the things I can sort of deal with, like, why would you call me to single motherhood? Why would you allow these things to be my reality? But it was in that journeying, in that navigating, in that literally being forced to sit down in the valley, I was able to learn so much more about what God was doing in my life. And so the bigger picture is always the better picture. And now I can see exactly what he wanted to do in my life. But I would definitely say going into it, it was one of the biggest obstacles, but coming out of it, it's been one of the richest blessings.
So talk about that transition. You found out you were pregnant Take us from that journey until now, almost 3 years later.
Oh my goodness. I will never forget. Actually, the day I found out I was pregnant, extremely sick, didn't know what was going on, went to the emergency room. They're like, "Oh, there's this GI bug going around and we're sure you have it. So just rest up." But out of caution, they just test every woman that comes in for pregnancy. And I was asked if they could test me, and I said, okay, sure, but I'm not pregnant. And I will never forget, I was in the room getting an IV pump at the time because I was so weak. And the doctor walked in and knocked on the door so nicely. And she was like, "You're pregnant. Congratulations." And I was like, I don't know how to respond in this moment. So with her, I'm smiling and I'm showing so much love and joy on my face, but internally, like, I am sinking, like, at once my entire world is shifting. And so from there, it just became like I said, this shifting, right? Just having to realign, make certain decisions, consult certain people, change certain thoughts and ideas, even locations. And shortly after my son was born, I relocated to Maryland with his father. He and I were together at the time, and it made more sense for me to sort of transition to the East Coast. I was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time. And so we sort of just began to make everything work, right? Everything just began to fall into place. But there were things that caused turmoil for me, that just red flags along the way, right? And just made me say, you know what, like, maybe you need to reevaluate if this is truly the path that you need to take. And I will tell you, it took a lot of back and forth, because on one end, it's, hey, you're pregnant, and God forbid you become a single mom and have that hanging over your head. And so maybe you just need to, like, roll up your sleeves and make this work, right? Even if you're not completely fulfilled, or you don't necessarily feel this is the space for you. And so that took a lot of, like, inward battling, to be honest. And I finally decided, we finally decided, like, this is not it, right? It just became toxic. It just became unhealthy. And so we just split, we severed ties, and I just continued to go my separate way. But in that, it caused me another relocation. So I left now a second city. So I'm having to find another community, make more friends, find new employment, find care and support from my son and this family that I now have to sort of take on by myself in a foreign land. And so it just became so much, like, weight on top of weight on top of weight on top of weight. And I thank God that I have a praying family and a praying support system that could just speak life into me when I honestly just felt lifeless. And I just felt I was sort of just going through the process, right? Because that's what I needed to do as a mom for my son. But inside, like, I was so checked out. Like, Alyson was not home. Alyson was not there. And it was literally the voice of God constantly telling me that I will never leave you or forsake you. Even when you feel left, when you feel forsaken, when you feel that you don't hear my voice or you cannot trace me, I need you to trust me in this. And this is ultimately going to make you a better woman, a better mom, a better believer. And this is what's going to literally catapult you into destiny. And I didn't see it now, but boy, do I see it. I didn't see it then, but boy, do I see it now. And I see where God was literally dropping off breadcrumbs along the way. And I can look back, they say hindsight is 20/20, but I can look back and say, you literally never took your hands off of me. And so for that alone, I'm grateful.
Were you two, when you two first split up, were you able to co-parent without problems?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
And if I'm being transparent, it's still a rocky road, but I know that there is grace, and I'm just believing and declaring and decreeing that one day we will get there. But right now is just not it. And so I am learning how to communicate. I am learning that less is more. I am learning that everything doesn't have to trigger a response. I am learning that I don't have to respond out of anger and emotion, and that I can take the high road, right? I can do those things because in the beginning, I was so upset. I was so frustrated. I was so confused as to why this was becoming my reality. I felt like there was always a rebuttal, right? I was always ready to go toe to toe. But just in that conditioning, in that time with God, I learned that that's not my position. Like, that's not my place. My job is to, one, be the best parent that I can be, and
Right.
two, be the best co-parent I can be, right? Just because we didn't work out in that space does not mean we cannot at some point be cordial, be amicable, and do things for our son. But I think the bigger mandate, where God just literally had to sit me down and really just get me together, is because he's like, you're my daughter. You answer to me, and you cannot respond the way that the world responds, or the way that you think, oh, I was able to retaliate. I know that one hurt, and go for the jugular, if you will. That is not your response, because the word tells us that vengeance is God's. And that's the place I had to get to. I had to say, you know what? Like, God, I know that you have gone before me. I know that every single battle I fight is already fixed. So why the arguing? Why the frustration? Why the turmoil? Go in peace. Literally, the peace that surpasses all understanding. That is what I'm operating in right now. And so, that's where we are. And I do, I pray for better days, because it's not ideal. And I don't want my son to grow up thinking his parents hate each other, because of age-old issues and concerns. And so I really do pray for God to literally penetrate the hearts, penetrate the minds, penetrate the spirits, so that not only healing can come, but so that we can be the best Christians, because that's our first responsibility. Yes, we have a responsibility for our son, but we are Christians, and that is a weighty call. Like, I'm not trying to mess that up. I'm like, God, you've been too good, and I'm trying to get home. And okay, home is higher. So I'm trying to get home. So I'm not letting anything, whether it's this situation or anything else, but I'm not letting anything else remove me from that position.
I'm so glad you said that, because, and it's funny that our stories sound so similar.
Wow.
I was 27, if I remember correctly, when I found out I was pregnant. And like you, the nurse is telling me I'm pregnant, and she's coming in smiling like she's part of the family. And I literally cried like, I don't even know what. And my response, her response to my response, she didn't know how to respond. And so she gave me a moment. And when she came back, I gathered myself. And in that moment, I realized I had to figure it out now. I'm almost 30 years old. I got to figure it out. We couldn't co-parent. He thought that I ruined his life. Although the pregnancy was out of deception. And so, but I got blamed for it all. And so, like you, I couldn't co-parent, but I did have to get to a place where I could not let that poisonous stream down to my daughter. And so it got to a place where I had to be the bigger person. And it sounded like what you did also, because at the end of the day, no matter what's going on between the two adults, you have an impressionable child that's looking and watching.
Absolutely.
So you made a comment that you had to move a couple of times, and you talked about the community and the support. Talk about that, because as a single parent, I had to do that too. I finished a master's degree, and I moved about an hour and a half away to a place I had never been before.
Wow.
And my support system was an hour and a half away. The next time I moved, my daughter was older, and I moved 8 hours away to a state that I had never been before. So talk about that community and support, because a lot of times single parents do think they're in it by themselves, and that could not be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So can I just tell you, you are on the brink of moving me to tears right now. And I think it's because it's amazing when, someone can encourage you and whatnot, but it's also so amazing when you see somebody else who has walked through some of those very same things. And so it just reminds you that, like, yes, you can do it. And even when you don't feel it, like, you have an example and somebody who has literally gone through the same thing, and look at them as well, right? And what you said is spot on. It is not easy to relocate as a single parent, especially when you are leaving. In my case, I was in Pittsburgh for about 5 years. I built this incredible community of women in that, and men and women, right, in that short time in my life. But those people became family. And so I left Pittsburgh thinking, oh, great, I have this growing family, and I hate to leave you all, but, duty calls, if you will, and here I go. And then that failed. Then I had to pivot, new job, came to Virginia, and now here I am again. And for me, like, church is very big to me. And all of my friends and family know I will literally relocate to a certain zip code, wherever I need to be, if it aligns with the church I'm trying to get to. Like, that's how serious I am about it. And so when I moved to Virginia, I knew nothing about this area. All I knew was a job that was here. Didn't know a single soul here. And I said, this is it, because I'm originally from Miami, Florida. So moving from Miami to Pittsburgh, it was difficult, but all I had to worry about was me, right? And I knew once I got into church and I got dancing in ministry, I would be fine. But this was different, because now you can't go dance in ministry. Now you can't go to the young adult church night. Now you can't go to the social hour at work. So how are you going to build a community when you need it most, but you don't have the bandwidth to do so? And it's literally God. I remember it all changed when I went to this random church, maybe about 5 minutes away from me, sat by a lady who happened to be a sorority sister, didn't even know her, just saw her Bible, said AKA. And I'm like, well, hey, can I have a friend here? And so long story short, she then invited me to join the nursery ministry at the church. And I was like, at the time, I was like, I have a 1-year-old. I don't want to run around other 1-year-olds. I want to sit down. Like, I'll send him to the nursery once I'm comfortable. But, that's not what I'm looking for. But I did it. And out of that, I met some incredible women, single moms, married moms, younger women, all these people who then started to become a part of my community. And granted, COVID, we're not seeing each other. And so that's been a little bit interesting, but I just felt like God was just saying, like, just try me. Just try me. Like, I'm not going to leave you empty, right? I'm not going to leave you without resources. And though it doesn't look like it did in Pittsburgh or like it does in Florida, it's taking shape, right? And it's taken shape. And so for that alone, I'm grateful.
Would you say you are an introvert or an extrovert?
It's funny. I think I'm an introverted extrovert, if that makes any sense at all. I think I can go in between. I am perfectly fine with being home alone with my baby and not seeing anybody, but I love people. I love talking to people. I love meeting people. I love hearing their stories. I love encouraging people, but I also know when it's time to just go into my shell. So I would say a combo of the two.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that is because there are single mothers out there who, like you, moved to another state away from their support system, and maybe they're wanting some support and some community, but they don't know how to go out and get it, or maybe the self-esteem is not there, or the confidence is not there to go out and get it. So what would you say to them to help them build that community?
Yeah. So, simply put, I would say do it, because it's worth it. Not only is it worth it for you socially, but it's worth it mentally. It's worth it mentally. We are not built to do this life in isolation. And single motherhood is not a curse. It's just a season in your life, right? And so you have to be able to rise above that and say, like, I'm not going to allow this to happen to me, but I'm going to rework it so that it works for me. And so whatever it is that you want to do it. And I'm not going to say it's easy, because hello, exhibit A, it's not. And there are going to be some things that you're going to have to sacrifice. But I just believe that God meets you at the point of your need. And so if you need community, if you need a break, if you need a like-minded person, there are resources. For me, it was the church. Maybe it's not that for you. Maybe it's a local mom's community club, maybe it's an online community of moms and all of these things, but plug in. Like, I truly encourage anybody, especially any mom, but especially if you're walking through this as a single mom, it's so important for you to lock arms with other women, because there are times where you're going to have some dark days and some dark nights and long days, and you're going to need somebody who can say, hey, you got this. So definitely plug in.
Yeah, when I can't remember how old my daughter was, but she was small when I moved to Alabama, and we happened to go on a field trip with the school, and the parents had to go. So I went, and at that time I was very socially awkward. I didn't reach out to people, but if they came to me, I embraced them. And so just so happened another single mother was on the bus. She happened to say hello and reached out to me, and we kind of communicated while we were on this trip, and we became each other's support system.
Wow.
So when she had to work at night, or one of the other needed a break, the two girls got along very well. They became best friends. And so then me and the mom became best friends. And so we gave each other a break. Like I said, if she had to work, let the young lady stay, the little girl stay at the house and whatnot. They had play dates. We took turns. And so that's what the community is about. It's not one-sided. So I want to put that out there too, for ladies not to take advantage of the support system either. It's a give and take relationship. Don't be abusive in that relationship.
Amen. That's very true. It has to be reciprocal. It has to be reciprocal. Absolutely.
Talk about this is on my heart, and I hate to go back to it, but I think it's important to say this. Although you and your son's father didn't get along, trouble co-parenting, talk about, I want to say this properly, not bad mouthing the dad in front of the children, or vice versa. It could be the dad bad mouthing the mom in front of children. Talk about that, your stance on that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad you even raised that, because that's a huge no. That's just unacceptable. Unacceptable. It can never be an option. Even I remember I would just be so upset, so hurt, so confused. Even now, sometimes I just get bothered, but that is not my son's. He doesn't need to be exposed to that. And it's unfair to him, right? Because all he knows is I have a mommy, I have a daddy, and they love me. And because we didn't work out, that doesn't mean that my son has to now be at the middle and have a front row seat to immature adults. And I'm just gonna, make that plain, because that's immaturity, right? You have to be able to rise up and say, yes, I have my feelings about the dad or the mom or the situation, but you cannot allow your child to get in the middle of it, because it's unfair. It's unfair. And there are things that I've wanted to say, things that I've wanted to do, but I'm like, it's not worth it. Because like you said, they are impressionable, they are young, and it's important that we shield them from it and we protect them from these things, because you don't want it to just become this downward spiral of just being evil and malicious and just ill intent just because everybody is angered and upset. And so for me, that's a huge no. His dad is well aware of that. I've articulated that as well. And I definitely hope and pray it's the same for him, even when I'm not in their presence, right? And so it's very important for me. And all my friends and family know when we're in front of baby boy, Dad is the king. Dad is the best person in the world. And again, and in his eyes, he should be. Just like in his eyes, I should be the queen and the most amazing mom. And so the adults, we can have our own views, and that's fine, right? Because we've kind of walked through this, but that it's a big no for me. So I'm glad you brought that up. Like, it absolutely cannot happen. It's not worth it in the end. It's really not.
Right. It takes two special people to get to the level of maturity that you're speaking about now, because there can be times where that the opposite has happened. The woman is so upset with what has happened, or vice versa, and whether they really know it or not, they're saying bad things. They're talking bad about the other person to other people, and the children are listening to this.
Yeah.
Granted, the child may be 3, 4, 5 years old, but now there's going to be a time where they're 15, 16, 17-year-old, and now they're having some animosity against that parent because of what was ingrained in them all of those years. And then now the child is a teenager and or adult. How can we reverse that for that child? Now, because now you're at a place where this individual has to make a decision about how they feel about that parent, whether it's the mother or the father.
Absolutely. And that's traumatizing. And it's not something we should want our kids to be exposed to. I sometimes hear, parents will try to like have a child, pick sides and pick favorite. No, love us both. Like, love us both. Make space in your heart and your mind for both of us, because we obviously both love you. And I know everybody's situation is different, right? But in my situation, there is love on both ends. And so I come in peace. Okay. I come in peace. I say that jokingly, but I do mean that. And it's important for me that my baby sees that, right? Because they really do model and mimic everything that we do. And so it's important for me that he knows, hey, you're fine. Your parents can get along. They can talk. We can, the poker face and everything. And then you go your separate ways, and maybe there's a different thought or a different opinion, but in front of baby boy, no. I say, like, literally, like, some things I will not allow to attach themselves to my baby. And so it has to literally die with me. So I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to put my hands to the plow, and I'm going to do what I have to do so that this does not reverberate through the totality of his life, because it's unfair to him. I feel like it's my mess, if you will, and I have to, and I will clean it up. So yeah.
Let's role play a little bit.
Okay. Oh, goodness.
Because this is a great picture that you're painting, but not everybody has this picture perfect story.
Yeah.
People are angry and they're unforgiven for whatever may have happened years ago, and like I said, the child is in the middle. So let's say the relationship didn't work out. Now daddy is off with another woman, mm-hmm. and maybe that woman has children, and that dad is being more of a dad to those children than he is to his own child or children. Mm. What, I know that's not your situation, but can you even fathom what to tell somebody in that situation?
Well, yeah, that's a lot. And I know that's reality, right? So I want to be clear. Do you mean what I would tell my son, or the conversation I would have with his father?
Let's say either or. Because if the father is not being the dad he's supposed to be to his own child, his biological child, now that child is going to have feelings about that treatment, especially when he or she sees the dad being more of a dad to somebody else's children. So now the mother and father have not gotten along, and now there's this whole other dynamic. And now, as a single mother, you really got to pull up your sleeves now to work past that and still be able to raise your child in a productive home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, at a first thought, it would be a conversation with his father, because I do believe in sort of addressing the source, and getting more information behind the why. Because I oftentimes see that, we see the what of the situation, we see what's manifesting, but I like to just sort of dig deeper and see what the why is. And not that I think anything is justifiable, when you're not spending time with your son and prioritizing other children, but I would want to get more behind the why and maybe just ask some pointed questions around that. But I think ultimately it would be a matter of getting to the root and wanting to know what the desired outcome is. Do you intend on shifting this, following this conversation? Now that I've brought it to your awareness, maybe it wasn't there before, but now that it's here, what do you plan to do as a result of this? Should we expect this behavior to change? How will you incorporate your son more? And one thing that I will say, in just some therapy that I did a couple of years ago now, I'll never forget, the counselor was saying it's so important, especially as the nuclear family separates, to always get that single-handed time with your child. So say, I'm dating someone or dad is dating someone, that's okay if you incorporate them in certain things, but it's important to have that isolated time, because you never want your child to feel like, wow, every time I come to dad or every time I see mom, she's always with X or he's always with Y. It's important to get that one-on-one. So it would be me just having that conversation and reminding him of the importance of that one-on-one time. But I think it's mostly about seeing the outcome. And I think if this becomes perpetual, right, and we don't see a shift, then I think it would just be a matter of, if my son is of age, allowing him to kind of spearhead that conversation and obviously being in support. But now I need to know, because this is affecting him mentally. And that's not what we're here to do. And so we need to be clear about our intentions and our role, and how well we want to play it in his life, because we're not going to be in and out or switching and prioritizing other people, because mentally that's not okay. And that's not something that I would ever stand for when it comes to my baby. Even if he's 25, he's always my baby. So my baby. Yeah.
Can you speak to forgiveness? Have you gotten to a place of forgiveness with your child's father?
Wow.
Just listening to you with this piece, I see this piece all over you. What it says to me is you've gotten to a place of forgiveness in order for you to be able to rise above whatever you all went through to get to this place of my child comes first. No matter what, he comes first.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's such an amazing point that you raised. And thank you so much for saying that. Because I really do have a piece. Oh my gosh. Like I fought to be in this place. But I really do have a piece. So the fact that, it's tangible, like that really means a lot to me, because it took a lot to get here. And I will say, with every bone in my body, I can finally offer a yes in that space. I think I've been asked this question so many times, and they'd be like, pray for me, I'm not there yet, or we're getting there, we're closer. Or admittedly, I might just say, yeah, just because it was the right thing to say in that moment. I felt like I was kind of pinned on the wall. But I will tell you, where I am right now in this season of my life, forgiveness has already been offered, even without the apology, right? Because that's not necessary. But I realize that the forgiveness was not just from, me to give him an award or something and say, "Hi, you've been forgiven," because quite frankly, I don't know that he cares to have that, right? But for me, it's been so liberating. It's been so freeing, like literally a burden that I don't have to carry. One, because, the word tells me, "Girl, cast those cares on me." Like, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm your father and I will help you. And I want to just pause there for a second to say, if somebody wrongs you or something happens, don't rush your forgiveness process. I know, for me, especially like as a Christian, sometimes we think, "Oh God, it's the right thing to do. I got to hurry up and slap forgiveness on this. I got to hurry up and do this." But it's like, no, God wants you to be real and raw and transparent. That's the only way that you can really work through those deep-seated issues. So if forgiveness doesn't come in a week, a year, a decade, I'd rather you be intentional with your forgiveness than just offer it up because it's the right thing to do, because you'll still be in bondage and you'll still be so broken. So it's like, no, free yourself of that. And that's what I had to tell myself too. Free yourself of that, Alyson, and literally walk in that space that God is giving you authority in. Like, you don't have to live in bondage to this situation, to a person, to an idea, to a thought, to a thing. You are free, and you are free indeed. And that means free in your mind. And I don't want to go on here preaching, but I'm just saying, like, God is just so good. And, he tells us that even in his word, like, he doesn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. And I say that all the time, like, Alyson, you have a sound mind. Even though this feels hard, even though this feels tough, even though you don't want to relinquish this pain to me, you have a sound mind. This is something that you can do. You can do hard things, and hard things includes forgiving those who have wronged you. Bless those who persecute you. I'm gonna stop there, but all right, you got to do it. You got to free yourself because it's necessary.
Do you remember the moment when you said enough was enough, and I've got to release this burden? What catapulted you to get to that place?
You know what? I do, actually. It was the beginning of this year. I was nearing my 30th birthday. This was all before COVID and everything, but nearing my 30th birthday in a new city, life was just changing. God was really just dealing with me in the area of purpose and things that he literally called for me to do while I'm just taking up space in this earth. And I said, you know what? I literally wrote down all of the things that I needed to work on, all of the things that I wanted to free myself of. And I said, God, I'm giving this to you. And we had a night. We had a long night. I think it was obviously a night my son was with his father, but we had a night and he literally like dealt with me. But when I got up off of that floor, there was such, oh my gosh, like I'm literally getting chills as I think about it, because there was such this lighthearted spirit that came over me. And it was something that I hadn't felt in years. And anybody that knows me, Alyson, you're sweet. You're always so bubbly. And I can put that on, right? You'll never know that inside I have been so broken, right? I have been so just like burned out, burned down. But it's like, I said, I'm giving this over to you. And I'm really going to see what this looks like to take you at your word, to say, cast your cares on me. And when I did that, I was like, this is what I've been, just robbing myself of. And granted, it's a process, so I don't want to undermine it at all, because it is a process. But and just like as a mom, right? When it's time to deliver your baby, right? Like, I remember getting a note from the doctor. They said, don't call if you think you're in labor. And I was like, what does that even mean? But I get it now. They're like, there'll be no false indicators. You will know that you're about to have this child. And so, we called at the right time. But I think it's the same thing with forgiveness. Don't fake it. Don't rush it. Don't do it because you feel you have to be obligated to do it. You will know. Your whole body will just be in alignment with that reality. Like, you will know when you need to forgive. And if you're not there yet, don't do it. But for me, it was the top of this year.
Wow. I'm so glad you said that because that segues right into us talking about you finding your purpose. And I don't think you could have found that before that forgiveness journey happened. So let's talk about it. So you've forgiven, you've laid all of that out, and now you found purpose. Talk about your purpose.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I just believe that purpose sometimes has the craziest ways of finding you. Before my son was born, I thought I knew. I thought I knew. I thought I knew. I'm like, we're here. So, I just believed that I was on the right track. But after I had him, he just really began to show me like a whole new world, right? A whole new perspective of what I'm supposed to do, like this whole new outlook on destiny. And like you said, it wasn't until, let me backtrack really quickly, even prior to forgiving my son's father, having to let go of some toxicity and all of these things that I've allowed myself to believe, these things that I just settled for, all of these things, even before that, I launched my business, right? So here it is. I launched this business. I'm walking in this. I'm doing this. It feels good. I feel purposed in this. I feel like I'm speaking into moms. I feel like I'm just helping people on their journey. But there was still a missing piece. It wasn't until this year when I literally had that one-on-one again, right? And I literally just had like this freeing shift that occurred. He literally catapulted everything in my life. And I say that because I cannot tell you how many doors have opened in the way of my business. I've spoken more times this year than I've ever spoken in my life. I've had the opportunity to share on so many different platforms. My son and I have been on national TV. All of these things, we published a book, been featured in another book, all of these things. And it's like, all God was saying was, I need you to strip away all those things that are holding you down, because I'm going to take you higher. And I need you to be able to soar when we get there. You can't soar with the weight of emotions and fear and stress and burnout and inadequacy. You can't soar with that. You've got to take that off, baby girl. Give it to me and let me give you wings. And I will tell you, this year has given me those wings for sure.
I've got chills just listening to you say that, because how can he give you the platform to speak to other mothers, especially when one of the ingredients is forgiveness? If you haven't forgiven, he can't put you in front of other people to talk about forgiveness, what that looks like when you haven't done it. So when you release that caterpillar turned into a butterfly.
Yes, I love that. Yes, absolutely. So it's necessary. It's a process. Yeah, absolutely. It's such a process, but it's such a necessary process. Nobody wants to go through this life upset and bitter and angry. I always tell my friends, like, none of us are getting out of here alive, okay? We all have an expiration date. I choose to use my days to be happy, to be empowering, and to live a life that I'm proud of. I don't want that way. So I'm like, God, it's yours. You wanted it in the first place. So let me just do what you asked me to do. It's yours. Have it. You got it. I don't want it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Mama's movement.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So I call that my second baby. My second baby. Yeah, so it was really just birthed out of my desire to seek community around motherhood. I remember when I initially had my son, I suffered with postpartum depression. And for a while, a lot of people didn't even know it. I was just dealing with so much. It was a rough season in my life. And a lot of my closest friends weren't and aren't yet moms. So granted, they were there, they were pouring into me, they were locking arms with me, encouraging me. But sometimes, like I was telling you earlier, you need to see somebody who has been through what you've been through and can tell you, this is okay. You're going to get through this. Why? Because I did. And I'm going to pull you through. I'm going to help you. I'm going to encourage you. And so I desperately needed that. And so I just began to carve it out. I said, this is what I want. And so obviously there's a need, right? Even if it's just a need for me, there's a need. And so I want to fill it, right? I want to be a bridge for moms. I want moms to know that like you can still rear your children, raise a family, and seek out after your own purpose, right? You can be a mom, you can be a wife, you can be career driven, you can be an entrepreneur, but you can still take care of you. You don't have to leave yourself behind in the process. And I also wanted them to know that whatever you're feeling, you're not crazy. You're not weird. Sometimes motherhood can be isolating. And so I wanted to build a bridge to help encourage, empower, challenge, because it's important to challenge and hold people accountable, but to ultimately come alongside the journey for like-minded moms to say, we've got this, and we've got this because we have each other.
Right. Talk about so you're an author now.
Yeah.
And you were a referral from Rebecca and Brianna of Millennial Transformations. Talk about how you got that opportunity and why you took it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that project is just an incredible one. I'm so honored to have been a part of that. Rebecca and I, we go way back to my Pittsburgh days. So I actually met her while living in Pittsburgh. We worked for the same corporation. And so she's just a beautiful spirit, beautiful soul. And so not only are we sorority sisters, but we are like here in the spirit. So we are just one, we're just two peas in a pod. And so we just always, link up and get together and talk and pour into each other and encourage each other. And she was one of the vital parts of my story, right? When it came to finding out I was pregnant and having my son and walking through this journey. I mean, she's literally been there at every single juncture. And let me just pause and say, it's one thing for people to say, I've got you when you need me. I'll be there when you need me. But it's another thing to have those people actually show up. And I can 150% say, she's always showed up. And so when this project sort of came on her and Bree's hearts, they reached out to me to be a contributor, to basically share my testimony with the world, right, with their platform, and be able to show people that you can go through things, like you can be bruised in life, but that doesn't mean you're broken, right? And that doesn't mean that you now are robbed of the opportunity to live a purpose-filled life. And so they reached out to me, and I wrote a story on my testimony, and I went in depth about that season, that journey, the before and the after, and sort of where I am now. But it was such a beautiful experience, and a very eye-opening experience, because I think it's one thing to, say your testimony and share it, but it's another thing when you have to sit down with it, write it out, go back through those areas that you kind of just want to blot out and erase and not remember, but you kind of have to revisit them, because, I told her my commitment to this is very true. It's very real, but I have to be transparent. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because somebody needs to know that there is life on the other side of any cataclysmic experience you have. And so that's basically how it started. And so their book is in production and they've been selling all over, but it's beautiful to have just a little bit of my life etched into their book. So it's awesome.
Awesome. On the pre-call, I didn't know you had a second book. So talk about your children's book, because I was getting ready to ask, is there a solo project out there for you?
Oh my God. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like perfect timing, right? So yes, in October of this year, my son and I, we released our project. It's called Every Day I Am, and it is basically a book filled with affirmations for little children. We have affirmations that we do every morning. And so one morning I said, you know what, I'm just going to record him saying his affirmations and put it on my Instagram and, whatever. I normally post my son on there, so it wasn't anything foreign. the video ended up going viral, and we were all over the internet. I mean, everywhere. Brands were sharing, news outlets reached out, and so many people were just overjoyed by those affirmations, and just how positive we were, just being in a time where everything just seemed so heavy, you know, with COVID and racial injustices and all of these things. We just spread, you know, just an ounce of light into the world. And so we gained traction. I said, you know, I would really love to put this in print, right? So it can not only, you know, be seen on my social media page, but just really be webbed into the hearts and homes of people all over the world. And so with the help of my family, you know, we just did it. We did it, rolled up our sleeves, got it out there. And so it's called Every Day I Am. It's a book of affirmations for little children. It's available on all retailers, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Target, wherever, you know, books are sold. And it's been an amazing journey just to receive that outpouring of love. But what's most important for me is for a baby boy to see himself in print. He knows it's him on the cover of the book. He's not quite reading yet, but he's really getting into like sight words and whatnot. And because he remembers the affirmations, when I read the book, he's just like taking it on and doing his affirmations. And so it's important for me that he's like filled up with those good things, so that as he goes out into this world, he'll never forget what he learned on the home court.
Wow. Do you have that book where you can put your hands on it?
I do. Give me a second.
Go ahead.
Okay, 1 quick second.
I want to see the cover of this book, and I want her to read a page from that book, just to encourage the single mothers out there who to know that there is life past single parenting, and that you can manifest these things that you want to do. And we're going to see a sample of that. So we want to see the cover and for you to read a page.
So this
Look at that.
Every Day I Am. My little one has a frohawk, so we tried to get the image of the character to really resemble him. But yeah, so he's standing on top of the world, just being reminded that he can do anything. And yeah, sure, I'll read you like maybe the first page.
Sure.
And it really excited about it. And so it says here, every day, I want to make sure to don't get the glare, but every day before I go to school, mommy lets me say words that are very cool. And this is like the first affirmation, I am strong. There are about 6 of them. And then on the very last page, it's like a repeat after me section. And the children can say all of the affirmations all together, just repeating after the adult that's reading it to them. Or if they can read, they're just saying them aloud. And so he loves it. I love it. We literally read this book every night. It's a part of our nightly routine. We have a couple books. I let him read a couple books before bed, but this is definitely a fan fave. I'm biased, of course, but yeah, so we're excited about it. But I love what you said about that. You know, anything you go through in life, right? It doesn't have to be a death sentence, right? You can still rise from it. You can still rise from it. Out of the ashes, we really do rise. And no is not a final answer. You know, you can do anything that you want to do on this earth, no matter what situations you've been given, what card you've been dealt with. You can do anything in this life you put your mind to.
And did that book come out this year in 2020?
Yeah, so it just came out in October. We released it in the beginning of October. And so it's out there now in hardback, soft cover, and ebook forms, and hopefully audiobook here very soon. But yeah, so we're excited about it.
Awesome. Talk about that process. Did you self-publish or did you get a publisher?
So I did the hybrid publishing model. So I am backed by a publishing house, but it does have like self-publishing components as well. So I, you know, had the illustrator, which they would have done as well, but I had a particular illustrator that I wanted to work with. So there were some things that I sort of did on my own, but I did a lot of the heavy lifting. Well, I allowed them to do a lot of the heavy lifting. That just reminded me. I will also say, you know, whether you're a single mom or just a mom in general, I invite you to really consider outsourcing a lot of your life. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with getting experts in different areas to do what they know how to do, right? Or how they can help you. So for me, my hands are tied. I work full-time entrepreneur, now full-time mommy because of COVID. Well, always a full-time mommy, but you know what I mean? He's not in school or in daycare right now. And so I can't do everything. I can't, right? Because that's burnout, that's stress, that's being overwhelmed. And so for me, it was important for me to align myself with somebody who could then take the project to the finish line. So I don't care what it is. Like if you need help with cooking, get somebody who can make you guys a few meals for the week, or find a subscription service. If you need help with cleaning, get a maid service or something. Like, don't feel bad about outsourcing parts of your life so that you can sort of get rid of the things that are kind of like the busy work in your life, and you can really be intentional about your purpose. Because I mean, I won't go as far to say I know for a fact, but I don't believe that God called us here to do laundry, clean the kitchen, cook food all day. And if that's your story, then that's okay. But at least for me, and I know for a lot of people, this is how we find ourselves operating as moms. But it's like, I really encourage you to push beyond that, right? And to know that outside of all of the other hats you wear, like, you are a child of God, you are purposeful, and there is something in you that the world needs. And so don't be afraid to let that come out. And if it means having people support you in those endeavors, go for it.
Right. All about that self-care.
Yes, a lot of it.
So if you would, Alyson, let's end on you giving any last minute advice or tips, anything you want to share with our single mothers.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I would just say, again, I mean, if you don't know by now, we've been on here for close to an hour. I love Jesus. So everything I say is just rooted in the word. But I will say, that two things. There's a scripture that says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them from them all. And so that scripture is just a reminder for me, and I pray that it's a reminder for you, that there are going to be tribulations, right? There are going to be things that you're going to have to journey through. But I encourage you that in that valley, that you position yourself to suffer well, right? To do what you need to do in those seasons, because ultimately you're coming out of them. And it's not just to, jerk a cheap shot, but it's really to say that God does not allow you to stay hurt, to stay broken, to stay in desolate places for long. He delivers you from it all, right? And so for whatever reason, if you find yourself in a low season, get the value in it. See what it is that God is trying to say to you, and what he wants you to do, and how he is calling you to shift and to pivot. But ultimately know that your Father loves you, and he will deliver you from it all. And the last thing I would say, again, it's not a death sentence, right? So you look yourself in the mirror, you tell yourself that you can do all things through a God that strengthens you, because all things are possible for you. And you'll get on the other side of this, whatever your this is, right? Whatever your this is, you'll get on the other side of it, and you'll be so much stronger. You'll be so much better for it. Allow it to really, really, really make a woman out of you, and trust God along the way, because he will never leave you and never forsake you. That's his promise for you.
That's right. If you faint not, as long as you don't quit,
That's
because
it.
every season has an expiration date. And if you just stay the course, just stay the course. Well, Alyson, you have been an absolute pleasure to have on this show. I'm so grateful that you accepted the invite, because we didn't know each other beforehand. So you trusted me enough to care for your story, because I do have a heart to, whatever that message is, to get people out of their stuck place. And for you to provide one of those examples, it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve you today. I'm grateful that you accepted the invite, and I look forward to more collaborations with you.
I agree.
This is not a one and done deal.
Yes, 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 yes. No, thank
So
you. And I just want to say thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thank you so much for having me, for opening up your platform and your heart. You are just absolutely amazing. And so I'm just honored to be here. I am over here in awe, just at the way that God moves and connects you with people that you never would have been connected to, right? And so I'm just grateful for you and all that you're doing as well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Well, this is the end of our show. And like I said, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to serve you. Thank you all for tuning in to the I Am Transformed show. Be on the lookout for the next episode. And until then, speak life over yourself and pursue your dreams and go after that life that you desire and deserve. But you have to believe that you deserve it. So let's tackle these excuses that are hindering you so that you can declare and decree, I am transformed. God bless you.